My name's Mark Titchner and I'm an artist based in London. So the idea behind the workshops is to kind of expand on some of the ideas that are going to be in the exhibition at the City Art Gallery, particularly around a couple of works of mine, one of which is called The Invisible Republic, which uses kind of a series of texts that came from corporate mission statements. So they appear to be quite like utopian in their language, but the source material is kind of derived from companies that maybe, I suppose it comes very much from capitalism, it comes from business, and the texts kind of seem in a way to come from perhaps like a more socialist or kind of utopian kind of perspective, so it's quite confusing. So the idea is that the workshops will kind of play around with that kind of idea of utopian language and the idea of expressing desires and the desire for change and improving the world. And from that, the kind of basic premise is to ask people or groups of people what they want, what it is that they actually want. And this follows on from this work in the show, which is a kind of list of phrases beginning with the phrase "we want." So it's kind of an inversion of the normal advertising, normal way that advertising works, which would be telling you need something or you want something. So it becomes a list of demands. So from the workshops, we're going to be kind of exploring this and asking the people who take part from all the various different groups what it is that they want. And the responses will be turned into artworks which will be displayed around the city. Because we're trying to explore, I guess, a few different avenues of things, there's a selection of materials that have been given to the group. So firstly, one of the components of the exhibition is taken from the gallery's, the museum's collection, which is a series of political posters, mainly Victorian ones, a lot of which were produced locally and pertain to local politics at the time. So we've been giving the groups copies of those posters, which are then, they're interesting in their own right, but we've kind of been using them as a material to kind of chop up and rearrange the texts. The other things we've been looking at are the Global Brand Scoreboard, which is a list of the 100 biggest global brands, all very familiar names, and then from that I looked at some of those companies, again at their things like their corporate mission statements, company values, vision statements, and pulled out a series of texts and quotes from those statements, which again have become kind of jumping off points to agree with or disagree with, or to rearrange and to maybe to contrast with individual feelings or wants. The workshops always develop as you go on, because you get a sense of what people react to and what they don't, but also because we're working with quite different groups of people, they need to the workshops need to be reasonably open, because people have different interests. And I suppose some of the groups it's been more possible to sort of talk about ideas, whereas others, it's felt much more appropriate to be doing things. Yeah, and as we gone on, tried to kind of encourage people to kind of write on these kind of shared boards, responds to kind of what we want, what we need, and what we get. So kind of working on those together, as whilst they're kind of working on their own artwork as well. So the groups have all responded to that material in their own way, and obviously because of the different no demographic or age groups. They have a different relationship to those companies. So, for instance, some have, I suppose, don't feel the influence of specifically the kind of tech and social media companies so much in their life. And particularly the younger people have been more concerned with what, that aspect of their lives, the influence of social media, data harvesting, profiling, privacy, that they want to express something about that, whereas I guess with some of the other people it's been more about specific kind of issues, social kind of issues, and about actually, about the town, rather than, I guess, with the, more general concerns about technology. I think one thing that's really interesting about these kind of groups is that you actually do feel generally that people kind of are engaged with these kind of issues about, I think we would be led to believe that people aren't politically engaged, or, and that doesn't necessarily mean with party politics, but they're not engaged in debate about the way the world is. And obviously as soon as you start talking to people, you realise that that's actually a kind of real misnomer. And I guess people now, through necessity and also just practicalities, are much more involved in, or becoming more aware of the need to kind of work in their own communities, to sort of initiate practical change, rather than it just being a case of we don't have any control over our lives because, the whole situation's kind of set up so that, huge global companies can do what they want. And I think there's a sense of that, and part of, the workshops really kind of underlines that sense that one of the ways that people are getting on with their lives and countering that is by kind of doing things on a much more practical, personal level.